Hey y'all, conservative brother here. Another daily rant back again, talking about the ESPN woke exodus and the blinding racial idolatry turning black folks away from Jesus Christ, and how kind of ESPN for almost 2 decades have been kind of leading that sort of campaign, get people, black folks riled up, obsessed with skin color, and it kind of just takes us away from our parents and grandparents' biblical worldviews. So I found this very interesting from a recent episode of Jason Whitlock's Fearless. Make sure to follow him over the Blaze TV. But he put up this very interesting graphic, and he's been kind of tracking this the last few years, what he called the ESPN BLM exodus, on a lot of these different kind of race baiting, sports journalists, these kind of social justice warriors kind of masquerading around as sports journalists. And, it's just gotten loud since kind of started around the Trayvon Martin, the BLM, 2012, 2013 inception. It grew more with Colin Kaepernick, 2016, and, NFL players are like slaves. And, of course, it just blew up it went full stage 4 in 2020, and with George Floyd, May 2020. So this graphic right here is just a very interesting illustration on a lot of these different reporters, and I'll kind of go up and down the list. Some of them I'm somewhat familiar with, some of them not really so much. But first of all, we got the biggest, most recent high profile one is Mark Jones. Mark Jones, who started at ESPN in 1990, and I saw clips of him in his early days, and yeah, man, he had an energy and a tenacity, kind of like anything else, and I'm sure I've caught him on broadcasts over the years that I've caught, and he recently retired in 2026. So apparently he's been there for 36 years. I felt like there were some gaps there where he wasn't around as much, or, I don't have the memory of seeing him all the time. But he recently retired after 36 years, and he's someone who race baited all, his biggest claim to fame interview, the biggest, proudest moment in his 36 years covering sports was, interviewing Barack Obama. So you're this celebrated sports commentator, journalist, all the different things in sports over the past 36 years. And your biggest accomplishment, you claim, was interviewing Barack Obama, a U.S. president. So that kind of already tells you something right there. And of course, he wouldn't have that same pedestal energy toward other U.S. presidents, but Barack Obama, then we got Clinton Yates. Clinton Yates, once again, I kind of recognize this guy just for years, has kind of done the race baiting. And I think Jason even talked about a time in Washington, D.C., he went to dinner with Clinton Yates in 2014, 2015. And the guy was literally like, yeah, man, if I could impregnate as many white women as possible, that's how we're going to stick it to the man. And that's the type of mentality you're kind of dealing with these clowns. Dan Le Batard, kind of heavyset white guy, kind of big shock jock, someone who for years was caping for Diana Rossini, continues to, but he'll have, if he got in the same room on a broadcast with Sage Steele or Michelle Latoya, he would just once again go full libtard and attack them and all this stuff and shame and all that stuff. But he got all the caping in the world for Diana Rossini. Jamel Hill, of course, a Michigan, Detroit native, I believe, who once again comes in as this black intellectual thought leader. She kind of rode that Colin Kaepernick 2016, 2017, and then, of course, the 2020 George Floyd wave. Does nothing but race bait. Whenever something comes out in sports, she is quick to find some sort of racial angle and how it's racist and all that. Michael L. Duncan, just from what I know, what Jason talks about, African, these sort of light skin, either, they got a white parent, a white mom or a white dad, and they kind of overcompensate and just play like, radical, revolutionary, social justice warrior to kind of compensate for, I'm only half white, so I really have to show how down I am. So same with Michael Smith. I think he got sat next to I think it was either L. Duncan or Jamel Hill, and basically just got de-emasculated slowly on that show. Pablo Torre, I don't know a whole lot about him. Latino guy, but I'm sure just pretty woke if he's on this list. Bomani Jones, of course, while I give him credit for, at least in a recent episode he did with Van Lathan, crediting Jason Whitlock for helping him in his early career. But he kind of still says, oh, there's all these horrible things Jason did, but he can't name one thing. It's just this sort of like, oh, he's toxic, and we can't actually name what he did wrong, but because Stephen A. Smith says he's bad, we all got to fall in line, even though Bomani hasn't worked in ESPN in years. Katie Nolan, I looked at her up. I'm not familiar with her. I'm sure I've seen her on Sidelight reporting on stuff. Same with Sarah Spain. Michelle Beadle, she went pretty crazy recently and just did a lot of lashing out, and then recently tries to bash Stephen A. Smith, to kind of, get a little attention out of that. But yeah, she's done some woke stuff over the years from what I remember. And then, of course, Jalen Rose. I mean, Jalen Rose, it's complicated because, it's kind of like a hometown hero here in Detroit. But he does have a lot of the very basic woke fundamentals that's kind of very annoying. And I think he said something recently about how NBA is like the lowest paid. Black people are capped and the lowest paid in the NBA. We are capped and get paid the lowest. And then Jason pointed out, like, are you serious? Like, NBA, they get 3 to 4 times the salary minimum guarantees in NHL players. NHL players, which are majority white, they get anywhere from $5 to $10 million a year, which is like 3 to 4 times less than the average NBA salary. And then Jalen Rose is sitting up here saying, oh yeah, black folks, we get capped. We get salary capped. So he'll just say some stuff where it's like, bro, so so I think this was a very, very interesting illustration that I hope gets shared around this screenshot and can really show people that, hey, the wind is blowing. I think ESPN is hearing that people are tired and their ratings are hurting. You can tell their ratings have been declining for years. They maybe if they're lucky, First Take even gets maybe 100,000 per broadcast. And I think it's taken ESPN a while, and they brought in, Pat McAfee and, maybe even what was the guy's name? Dave Portnoy. It's kind of like a loud white Jewish version of Stephen A. Smith. I don't care much for him. But I think they're like, okay, this BLM black activist sports reporting is starting to really run this course. So they're seeing the writing on the wall. So it's a good thing, in my opinion, that we continue this trend and this trend continues. All right, bro. I'll catch you guys. I'll catch you guys next time. Conservative Brother, Daily Rant. See ya.